Hello, this HighByte video covers data from the cloud to the edge. So using HighByte Intelligence Hub to take data from an AWS service, in this case IoT Core, and send that modeled data to industrial systems. So here I'm starting in IoT Core, and just a simple example, I have a topic here, and what we're doing is we're publishing temperature and pressure information, and we're mimicking a common scenario where a company may have implemented best of breed supplemental sensors. Those sensors, rather than sending data through the typical automation stack, are sending data to the cloud. And what they might want to do is bring that data into a process historian or into a SCADA system, maybe do that based on an event, and have that data available with other data to look at it holistically. So what I'll do is I'll start here in IoT Core. We have a topic and a specific payload. And what I've done previously in Intelligence Hub, now moving to Intelligence Hub, within my IoT Core connection where I've indicated the location of the endpoint, the port, and created a secure connection with certificates created in AWS, I have a connection input. And that connection input consists very simply of defining the topic. So this is my topic. I just created a new input. I gave it a name, and when I test this, I can see the payload that was sent. That was the last payload that was sent. Now I'll just publish this new payload and read again, and we can see that we're obtaining data from IoT Core via MQTT. We're using the Intelligence Hub MQTT client connection and an input connection. Ultimately, what I want to do is send data to, in this case, I'll use KEP server EX. So this data could be published via Sparkplug. It could be published via OPC UA. Intelligence Hub has configurable direct connections to Ignition and Pi, for example. But here I'll just use the universal OPC UA. So I have two tags, pressure and temperature. And these tags might not be named the same way and using the same syntax as the payload coming from IoT Core, and you can see they're subtly different. So what I'm going to do is I created a model. I created a model in Intelligence Hub, and that's very simple to do. I have a temperature and pressure, and that consists simply of creating a new attribute. I can define the data type, whether or not it's required, and I have a model here for my temperature and pressure. So I'll use that model to make sure that the attributes that I'm sending to KEP server EX are identical to the tag names. And that's important because I've created a connection output in this example that's going to send that data to KEP server EX, and I'm going to send an object, and that object will must match the object attributes must match the tag names precisely, and then it will update. So I'll send multiple tags to this connection output. This connection output was created very simply. If I just go to output, I can browse and I can create a connection. So I have I already have my connection here, and these are the two tags I'm using. Of course, I'm using the branch read, but I could have individually mapped each of these tags and created an output to them. So this is that temperature tag that I just created. Um, so we'll look at those OPC values. I'll use the OPC quick client to view the values. You can see the values are currently 0. So now at this point, I've created a connection to obtain the data from IoT Core, a connection input using the MQTT client. I've created a connection output that's going to send the model data to KEP server EX via OPC UA. I have a model that's going to format my data. And next, what I'm going to do is use a pipeline. So a pipeline is a means of obtaining data, formatting the data, and sending that data to a destination. I have a flow here, a flow trigger. And what I'm doing is the input, of course, is that IoT Core connection input, the MQTT client. But what I'm doing is I'm saying whenever that changes, whenever that topic value changes, I'm going to trigger my flow and the data is going to flow through my pipeline. The other thing I've done is I've used a model stage and I've associated the attributes that are coming into the pipeline to my model so that I can precisely align with the tags that have been created in KEP EX, and then ultimately I'm sending it to that KEP EX connection output. Creating pipelines is real simple and powerful in Intelligence Hub. What we do is we have standard available uh, pipeline stages that can be dragged and dropped onto the canvas. I mentioned I'm using that model stage. I just pull that in and I can configure that. It's just an example of a stage that can be pulled onto the canvas and linked to other stages to create a pipeline. So what I'll do is I'll enable this flow. And when I enable the flow, we won't expect that data will be sent because we haven't had a change event. Data will only be sent when it's changed. So I need to publish to this topic, and I'll just publish this value. Actually, I'll change the value to make sure that we have a change, right? And I'll publish that. And what we can see is that data moved through the flow. You can see the status of the flow here very easily. The status is good. We can see it's been executed one time. I can use track activity to actually see the value of the payload move through the pipeline. But I'll just verify here really quickly that we have that data in KEP EX. So that's just a quick and simple example of something very powerful, taking data from the cloud and using HighByte Intelligence Hub to move data from a cloud endpoint, in this case, AWS IoT Core, and send it to an industrial system, to send it to the OT layer, whether that be a historian or a SCADA system, or even a PLC through an OPC UA server. Thank you very much.